All right, everybody. It is buyout target number 2 of our buyout series. And today we are talking about Otto Porter Jr. You know the deal. This is Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Today is our buyout target series, buyout target number 2. Specifically today, we're going to talk about Otto Porter Jr. And here to break it all down with me is my buddy from across the pond, my guy, the lead writer for Celtics blog. It's Adam Taylor. What's good, my guy?
Yeah, what's popping? What's
What's
popping,
popping? I
dude?
know you love it when I put in the what's popping there.
I
So
did. I did.
I make sure I do that for you here
I'm
going
telling you
forward.
though, no one's got a better intro than us, man. Because you watch that intro, you get like on an evening when we're recording, when it's nighttime for me and it's dark outside and my day's been long, and I'm a little bit more, yeah, man, you know how I feel. But now when it's daytime, the sun, well, it's light at least, and then we have that
Yeah.
intro on, you can't help but be like, yo, let's fucking go, dude. Let's talk some buyout targets.
Hey
It's the
man,
All-Star
that's
break.
whenever I can get real amped up and get one of our guests to say that they feel amped, that's the whole goal. That's the whole goal, is to kind of bring the energy, bring the vibe. So hopefully today, as we talk out buyout target number 2, Mr. Otto Porter Jr., we're going to be bringing that to you, whether you're watching this on YouTube, and if you are, we really appreciate it. Or if you listen to the audio version, we also appreciate that. If you want to subscribe to both, we really, really appreciate when people do that. So make sure that you do that. Make sure you join us in the Discord. We're always having a good time. So, Adam, Otto Porter Jr., this is a guy that right now, as it currently stands, is a member of the Utah Jazz. He has not played a single game for the Utah Jazz. He was traded there from the Toronto Raptors. This is a man that, let's just, if we're going to be honest, has not played a lot of basketball in the last couple of years. If we're looking at his most recent runs in the NBA here, you know, he was in Chicago, ended up in Orlando at the end of the 2021 season. And I have to be upfront here. When that happened, or around that time frame, this was in the same mix of when the Boston Celtics were lords of the TPE. Nobody in all the land had ever seen a TPE so large as to what the Boston Celtics possessed. And it was a constant battle of conversation. Who should they use it on? Who's the right guy? And I'll be honest, at times, I've definitely made a pretty vehement pitch that Otto Porter Jr. was that guy. Now, was he worth his contract? No, but he was a very solid player. And you know what? In the 2021-2022 season, which is the last real substantial amount of playing time we've seen from Otto Porter Jr., he was on the Golden State Warriors. And unfortunately, we saw guess who inserted into the starting lineup in the NBA Finals and ended up making a difference and preventing the Celtics from getting their 18th championship. It was Otto Porter Jr. So that brings us to today, where 2 years removed now, or a year and a half plus or so, removed from that championship, the man has only played 23 NBA games since then. So not a lot to work off. But Adam, start here. What are your initial thoughts when you think of Otto Porter Jr. to fill that last roster spot for the Boston Celtics?
I think that you've got to take the injury concerns into account, but I also think that this is the 15th roster spot, and every time we do one of these, I'm going to try and rationalize it as, if you're relying on this guy for consistent minutes in the postseason, then you're already screwed because something went badly wrong in the first place. So when you take that into account, he's one of the only buyout options available that has legitimate and recent championship experience. I think that plays a huge part, coming in, adding another champion to the locker room, just somebody that's been there recently. To be honest with you, was there the last time when he won a championship, was the last time Boston went to the finals. So he not only experienced being champion, but he experienced how to beat the Celtics. And that could be valuable within itself, just in terms of preparation and internal scouting reports that you can build on each other to try and plug holes. Yeah, he's not going to give you great production. I think that the defense has probably waned a little bit. Couple of injuries. He's got a bit older. How old is he now? He's 30, so he's still young.
Which is kind of crazy, right? That was gonna be a
Yeah,
question I was gonna ask you. Is you know how old this guy? Like, it feels Otto Porter Jr. feels like, and maybe I'm thinking this because he went to Georgetown as well, but it feels like he's in the Jeff Green realm of his career. And it's like, this man's 30. Like Kristaps Porzingis is 28, 29. You know what I mean? Like there's not a huge gap. Like this guy has just been beaten with injuries and just.
badly.
He listen when he wasn't hurt. This dude has been a solid NBA player. I think he's now in that point of his career where the injuries are probably just too much. And so I don't know where he's ever going to get back to, but he had a bloated contract. So I think there was a view of Otto Porter Jr. that he wasn't doing enough, but I've always said, you can't blame a guy for getting a bag, right? Like he didn't just go out there and, multiple teams came to him and said they gave him, at the time, whatever it was, 80 million, $100 million, whatever he ended up getting between Washington and Chicago, like he got given that, and he ended up performing at the same. Like if you look at his career from his basically third year through his like sixth year, like he has all like his numbers are very consistent across the board between about 11 to 15 points, about 5-6 rebounds, and about 2 assists a game on decent shooting. Like that's what he got you so he was very consistent. He just never really hit that next level that as a number 3 pick, you thought maybe there's that opportunity. But I think when it comes to Otto Porter, for me, and this is kind of how I view any of these buyout targets that we're doing, is I'm more interested in guys that I've seen a proof of concept at some point. And with Otto Porter Jr. in the finals, it's only, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like it's not that long ago. And because like you said, this is your 15th spot. I'm not expecting there to be a lot of production. I'm not even expecting this guy to get a lot of time. This is kind of that Mike Muscala spot that we had last year. And
Yeah.
out of my head, I don't think Muscala played a minute in the playoffs. If he did, it was, garbage time. It wasn't really anything meaningful. Maybe in the Hawks series, he might have got in the mix for a little bit. But to me, what I'm trying to envision with all of these buyout guys, and the same applies to Danilo Gallinari, who you and Greg did a review of, if you want to go check out, go hit the YouTube, go hit our audio feed, is can I envision game 2, game 3 of a series where these guys come in the second quarter, middle of the third quarter, and for 4 or 5 minutes, they give you a throwback version of whoever they were at their best. Can they do that? Because that's really what I'm looking for. And like, if we were looking back at past Celtics teams, what was Nick Stauskas' peak that he was ever really going to give you meaningfully in a series? It just probably wasn't there. Same for a guy like Theo Pinson, and I'm sure there's others that we could name, and no shade to them, but with Danilo Gallinari, I can envision a 4-minute stretch where it's like, oh shit, Gallo came in and hit 3 threes in game 3 in the third quarter and just changed the tide because it was something different. Is that going to be consistent? Will he continue to do that? Probably not. Otto Porter Jr., kind of the same thing. Like I've seen it happen, and it wasn't that long ago. And like you said, it was in the Garden when it happened. And so, can I get a small sample size where Otto Porter Jr. can have a throwback moment for a game or two? I'd rather bet on that as my 15th option than look at somebody who has either upside or just hasn't ever proven it or hasn't ever given you, like I said, that proof of concept. That's something that I'm really looking for. And so, I do think in that scenario, depending on health, and I don't really know much about Otto Porter Jr.'s health at this time, this is a guy that I think fits the mold that I would look to for that spot.
Coming off what you've just said, one of the things that stuck in my head quite early in your explanation, and it kind of made
Which was
it really.
long.
No, I'm going to be honest. It made it really difficult to keep track because I kept having to come back to the thought that was in my head because I felt like it was a good one. You mentioned you were talking about injury issues, and you're just trying to get the best version of a guy, or at least just a small sample of the best version of a guy. And the kind of version that I'm looking for, or like the best way to kind of relate this, is Jabari Parker, right? Came into the NBA with all the talent in the world, was beat down by injuries, injury after injury, just kept sapping away that natural talent. Is one of the biggest what could have beens in like the last 20 years because he was that freaking good when he was healthy originally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, Porter Jr. is on a much smaller scale in terms of natural ability and where his ceiling was and everything. But Boston found a way to get productive minutes out of Jabari Parker multiple times on limited run. He was on a real small leash and it was just available here and there, right? Now, if you can replicate that, with Otto Porter, you can keep him healthy, you can get certain impactful nights, then I'm down for it. But if the concern is we're going to pick him up and he's going to play 5 games between now and the end of the season, before the postseason, he's going to be injured for most of the next few months. He isn't really going to acclimate with the team because he's on the treatment table, and like, then no, I'm against it. I don't care what you bring. I don't care that you have a championship ring. Like, I care that you're able to acclimate with this team. Are you on the side? Are you on the bench cheering for guys? Are you? Who was that dude? He was it last year or the year before? And he was just known for the vibes on the bench. Who
That was
was it?
Theo Pinson, right?
No, it wasn't Pinson. It was someone else.
I think I know who you're talking about. I'll try to look it up as you keep talking.
Was it Malik Fitz?
There we go. Malik Fitz. That's exactly who it was.
Like that, if you're going to bring that type of energy, but with some veteran savvy, with some championship know-how, convert your threes. I mean, what is he? He's a career 39.7 3-point shooter. If you can shoot 37% consistently, which is 2%, 3% below your career average, and you can defend at a reasonable level as part of a system, you can pinch, you can rotate, you can switch. By all means, on a minimum for the rest of the season, I'm down completely.
Yeah.
But if you're going to come in and there's injury issues and we're not too sure whether we can even get Jabari Parker type impact from you when it's needed, it's a hard pass from me.
Yeah, I mean, the injury thing will ultimately determine. And like I said, I don't fully know what his status is right now. As he's only played, before he got traded from Toronto, he had only played in 15 games this year in a very limited role. So he was never able to fully get healthy. I mean, he signed on a 2-year contract with the Raptors after that Warriors run. And like I said, he played a total of 23 games in his time with the Raptors. So there's almost not even significant enough data to really even look at and say this is who Otto Porter is at this point. So it's going to depend, like you said, if he's just completely just not going to be healthy and you're going to sign him as a buyout guy, and like you said, he just spends his entire time on the medical table, certainly not going to be worth it. But if you can do the medical evaluation, and hopefully our guy Danny would give us a fair evaluation, him and Will would kind of like look at it and be like, hey, here's the deal, so we'd have good intel if they're doing the medicals in Utah, if and when they do buy him out, then we can actually know what it is. But if he is healthy, like you said, I think he fits the prototype of who I'm kind of looking at for that spot. If he's not healthy, it wouldn't be him. I do think, just using that Malik Fitz point, like that's a good example of a guy that unless there was just no one else that was available, I might even just convert Keita at that point, to be honest. Like, depending on what that does financially to the books, and I don't know like the in depth of that enough, but a vibes guy for me at this point, like the vibes are pretty good on this team right now, from all indications. Of course, we've been misled before, and it's like, oh man, I didn't really know behind the scenes, like X and Y were really brewing. Maybe there's some Grant Williams that we don't know about, poor Grant, man. He's getting bashed on his way out of Dallas. Poor guy. But, maybe
crushing it in Charlotte.
Yeah, he's undefeated since he's gone to Charlotte. So good for him, man. A little homecoming. But I don't know if there is, like, and it doesn't feel like there is, right? Like JB and KP, cookies and cream, just went on View from the Rafters, right? The vibes are high. We're heading into All-Star weekend. I think Joe Mazzulla is winning back parts of the fan base that he lost at the time fairly, and then in retrospect probably unfairly, during last year's run. I think he's starting to win more people over, and so you see these vibes are growing. So I don't think, for me, there are teams where you're like, you need that guy at the end of the bench, just happy to be there. I think this team, I don't think that's what this team needs. And if you want to really look at it from that championship lens, and it's funny, let's go back to the Warriors against the Celtics in the finals. Otto Porter Jr., who we're talking about now, he was inserted into the starting lineup. Another guy on that team that almost no one's going to think of, but has really stuck out to me every time I go back to that series was Bjelica. And the only reason he sticks out to me is he would play about 5 to 7 minutes in just about every game. And I'd have to go back and look. I feel like he was just kind of a net neutral. But the fact that he was able to be out there for those stretches, not hurt that team, and allow the Draymonds of the world, allow Clay, who was still coming back, Looney, allow these other guys to get a few extra minutes, like those 5 to 7 minutes without having the whether it's analytic stats or whether it's just the pure stat production of points, rebounds, assists, like his ability to be out there was huge, especially for that Celtics team, which was on fumes, between injuries to multiple players, only playing basically 7 guys at that point. Like, to me, his little 5-7 minute stints made a big difference in that series. And I know it's not the main thing you should think about in that series, but it is something that jumps out to me every single time I think about that. So when I look at these buyout targets, to me, it's like, is this a guy that at their best for even 2 to 3 games, maybe we can get 4 to 5 minutes out a couple times, and it changes it up. It gives you another curveball, as we keep talking about. What's that other go-to? There's this new lineup, and it throws something at your opponent that maybe you're not quite ready for. And that's what I'm looking for with these guys. And so with Otto Porter, health is the number one thing. If he's healthy, I think he fits the mold. If he's not healthy, move on. It's not gonna be worth it. Like I said, I think that spot is better for whether it's Gallo or maybe some other targets that we'll talk about here in the next couple of days and next week or so, as we have our all-star break coming up. We'll hit a few more of these guys, or even just converting Keita at that point, like that, because
I'm completely out on converting Keita just for the.
Tell me more. Tell me why.
There's no point now. You've got Tillman. I do not want,
That's
and
fair. That's fair.
I had this argument last season and the season before when everyone was like, we need another big. I'm like, you do not want 33% of your roster, that's 5 out of 15 guys, to be bigs. Like, there's 4 other positions to play on the floor. I do not want a third of them limited to being at one position. You can play KP at the 4, but I'm not really super comfortable there with him being able to hang on the perimeter. I'd rather him being a 5 in drop. You can protect him a little bit more, remove a little bit of wear and tear on his ankles and his knees and his lower back. You can play Horford at the 4. I'm fine with that. Okay. You can play Tillman at the 4, but I'd rather not. I think his value comes at the 5.
We still got to see it. That's the other part with Tillman. We still got to see it.
I don't want a 5th guy that plays the 5 and nothing else, because you know what I mean. So like, I
totally understand that. Isn't that makes a lot of sense to me. For me, the bringing Keita on full time, that is totally there is nothing out there for us.
Yeah,
and I think it would be, for me, it's Keita versus a Malik Fitz type. Sorry, Malik. I hope if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to keep throwing a bunch
catching
of
strays, dude. I gave him as an example of like the type of energy I want from somebody, and
I'm saying I'm just out on that guy. Like, I'm out on that guy that has absolutely no purpose other than the vibes.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I want you to bring purpose and vibes. Like, that to me is important.
No, that's ideal,
because
of course
you're an end of bench guy. You're like, as horrible as it is to say, like, you are there for insurance purposes. You are the spare tire in the trunk.
But this is my point. I don't think Fitz even gives you insurance. Like, I think there's no world in which a guy like that would ever step foot on an NBA court in the playoffs.
But even 40-year-old Shaq was part of the Admiral. He was like part of Admiral Insurance, and he was like nearly 90 at the time.
Shaq sells everything, man. Shaq sells everything, which is why that guy's is an amazing businessman, which is wild.
But you never see him here. Never see him on an advert or anything here, ever.
Really?
Dude, yeah, but Snoop Dogg now. Snoop Dogg's everywhere.
I mean, Snoop's everywhere too. Snoop and Shaq. They're basically them two and Kevin Hart. That would be a tight title race for who has more advertisements in the U.S. All 3 of them are basically everywhere. Specifically Kevin Hart right now. Kevin Hart's everywhere. But this is way off topic of the point here of, I don't know how we went from Malik Fitz to Shaq to Snoop to Kevin Hart. We find a way to get things done over here.
Do you want a throwback so I can test how old you are? And this isn't basketball related. But sometimes, we should be showing ourselves as our personality, not just basketball. Can you tell me who he is or what he's from?
I know it's the show Gargoyles, but I don't know the names of anybody. But that show was dope. I did used to love that show back in the day. Yeah, I knew exactly what that was. So hopefully, if you're listening on the audio version, go over to YouTube and you can see if you can name the figurine that Adam just brought out. He's roughly just as old as Otto Porter Jr., who's actually surprisingly young. So maybe that's a good way to go ahead.
Actually, he's about the same age as Otto Porter Jr., except one's a gargoyle, and I reckon the gargoyle could play way better defense.
Like, if he's healthy, then that could be the
scoring on a dude with wings.
Ooh, that would be good. That would increase the perimeter defense for sure.
And the rim protection. You can't score on a dude that can fly. And his henchman. Have you seen the size? You don't use that word over there, any?
No, I know what a henchman is, but I haven't seen the show in quite a while. But I think we've gone too far off topic here. Let's wrap this up here. Otto Porter Jr., if he's healthy, I think I'd be interested. Adam, if he's healthy, would you be interested?
Yeah, I mean, he's not my number one option. He's in my top five.
Okay.
I think that he does make sense. I think he fills a need. He's positionally versatile. You can play him at the 3, you can play him at the 4. If you want to go really big, you could play him at the 2, but I wouldn't advise it. Bring some shooting, brings you a little bit of defense. Top 5 in options, maybe top 3.
Love it. That is buyout target number 2. That is Otto Porter Jr. If you guys want to check out the first part of the series, Danilo Gallinari, that is up on YouTube. That is on our audio feed. For today, that's going to wrap it up. We'll be back with more buyout targets throughout the week. It's the All-Star break, so we got some content to fill, so we got more buyout targets to hit. So we will be back with you. I'm Will Weir. This is my guy, Adam Taylor. We are Green with Envy, and playing you out is going to be our guy, the third member of the 3-man weave from his band down here in Austin, Texas. They are called Black Sheep Optimus. Enjoy, and we will catch y'all later. Peace.